Yeah, I'm like a little kid every time that, a free kick's given on the edge of the box.
Well, for a kid, Shep, he takes a hell of a free kick.
I'm glad I'm retired, Greg. I don't want to be facing that shot.
Well, you're not done yet. There's still extra time. E.T. is next. Welcome to Extra Time, everybody. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Shep Messing, as always. A little later on, we'll be joined by DC United's Ben Olsen, and we'll also break down a couple of titanic clashes taking place this week in MLS. But for now, we're both still scratching our heads a little after the weekend. I mean, Columbus solidified their lead in the East. They won their fourth straight game, but Chicago kept pace with a big win of their own. Out West, Chivas and Houston failed to score, but since only one Western team got a win, they didn't lose much ground. And David Beckham, everybody's favorite, David Beckham, got what his countrymen would call a brace to help Los Angeles climb back and earn a draw with Salt Lake.
Oh, Greg, we talked about goalkeepers last week, and we must have inspired them because they stepped up big. 6 goalkeepers posted shutouts over the weekend.
Not bad at all. Well, some people around here argued that the Salt Lake LA draw should have been the game of the week, but those people are Beckham heads, and to us, we don't really listen to them, right? The real game of the week for us was Chicago's 3-0 drubbing of New England at Gillette. This was a statement game for the Fire, who have had their problems with New England recently.
Well, I'll tell you, I think those problems are history because Chicago, it looks like they have New England's number. They've played 2 games. They've scored 7 goals. They've allowed zip. I think they have what it takes to beat New England.
Well, it certainly looks like it. This is the second time the Fire have thumped the Revs this season. They administered a good old-fashioned spanking earlier at Toyota Park with a 4-0 win. In that game, the Revs lost Jeff Lorenowitz to a red card in the 7th minute. This time, the Revs had a nearly full side. For one, they kept all 11 players on the field. That's a step in the right direction. 2, Chris Albright and Steve Ralston were back from injury, but it made no difference in the end.
Greg, I'd make the argument that anything New England does until they get a healthy Taylor Twellman and a healthy Steve Ralston for 90 minutes, it's just gravy. They need those 2 players in the starting 11 for 90 minutes.
Well, there's also a question, I think, of speed in the back. They were without Ameche Igwe, and I think that hurt them. Chris Albright didn't seem to have the speed, and that hurt them, I think, against Chicago. But the truth is, the Fire simply outclassed the Revs. When was the last time someone said that about a team at Gillette? And it wasn't just Cuauhtemoc Blanco, your favorite circus ringmaster, Shep. John Thorrington has become a big contributor for the Fire. 3 goals and an assist in the last 2 games, and he's got an energy and a passion that I really like in this kid. He also has a goal scorer's knack, as seen from his goal against the Revolution. The key for me is that I think he's been given a free role in the midfield. He's playing almost like a second Blanco in there, and a real freestyle feel right now that Chicago Fire has.
Well, you love to talk about attacking soccer, and I agree, the fluidity, the running off the ball, that's all great, but defense wins games. We talked about John Bush. I think technically one of the best goalkeepers in the league. He's playing outstanding. And talk about Samare and the whole team. They're organized, they keep their shape, they lose the ball, they look very good.
Well, it comes down to the role players. The defense has been rock solid because of some of those role players. Only 3 goals conceded in 6 games. And, these role players, the Blancos and the Beckhams, they get you lots of ink in the press, but it's the other 10 guys really that get you the wins. And right now for Chicago, you have guys like Logan Paws, Gonzalo Segares. Both of these guys are having really good seasons so far. And along with John Bush, obviously, he was right now at a .5 goals against average.
Well, you talk about the Chicago team and what will it take for them to do well in the playoffs, maybe to the end of the line. I think it rests on the shoulders of the temperamental Blanco. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay motivated.
Well, that's a question. Blanco's now 35. Do you think his legs are going to hold up through the season?
Yeah, I do. And I was casting a critical eye on him when he came to the league. He's a proven commodity to me. He's come here for the right reason. He's come to play. And hopefully for the Chicago fans, he stays healthy.
And he's still entertaining to watch. The Chicago Fire right now in 2nd place in the East. We'll see if they can keep that up and maybe catch up with Columbus. Okay, let me take you back, way back, to a time before Beckham looked like Justin Timberlake's nerdy brother, before Josie Altidore was on Real Madrid's wish list, before Shep and I learned how to tie Windsor knots. August 18th, 2007, Giant Stadium, more than 66,000 people watched the New York Red Bulls beat the Los Angeles Galaxy 5-4.
Greg, I was at the game, and I'll make the argument that's the greatest game in the history of Major League Soccer. The crowd was electric, the ambiance unbelievable, and we saw the real David Beckham, a world-class player. We also saw a goal fest, and we saw maybe the emergence of Josie Altidore as the next superstar.
Well, certainly a goal fest. This weekend, the two will lock horns for the first time since that game. This time they're in Los Angeles on Saturday night, and you got to figure it's going to be a paparazzi extravaganza. It's LA and New York, it always is. But will the game live up to the hype? The Galaxy are coming off a 2-2 draw with Salt Lake. New York got a 1-1 draw at Toronto. Both teams are firmly stuck in the middle of the pack right now.
Greg, I think both these teams are headed in the right direction. I don't know if it'll replicate the goal fest we saw last year, but certainly in the attacking third, Landon Donovan, David Beckham playing extremely well. Maybe Carlos Ruiz coming back. And for New York, they got a tough 1-1 draw in a hostile environment against Toronto, so I have great expectations for this game.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the attacks because the LA shambolic defense means the burden falls on the attack again. Personally, that's how I think it should be. Force the stars to shine, and the stars are mainly strikers. You know, maybe we'll get another 5-4 thriller. The good news for LA, or is it bad news, is that Carlos Ruiz may be back in uniform on Saturday. Regardless, though, the key is, of course, Landon Donovan. He could romp all day long against New York's static backline. If he starts running at them, that will open up space and opportunities for himself and his teammates because guys like Jeff Park, these guys can't really stay with Landon when he starts to move.
Well, I would say this game is really a mirror reflection in terms of the back line and the attacking third. So if you're New York, they're thinking the same thing. Right. Josie Altidore, right. Juan Pablo Angel, let us go and attack that back line, and a young goalkeeper for LA.
Well, certainly. It should be another game of the ages, maybe. I guess it depends on how many goals David Beckham scores. The other big matchup this week is Chicago traveling down to the nation's capital, where DC United is hoping to right the ship. Things aren't going well right now for United. They lost 2-0 to Colorado over this past weekend. Tommy Sohn, had some comments after questioning about the heart of the team, and the reality is that they're missing the heart of the team in DC right now, and that is Ben Olsen, who joins us right now in Extra Time. Welcome to ET, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ben. Before we get to DC and their problems, let's just talk about your personal situation. This week, we heard that your injuries are much worse than previously thought, and there's even talk that this might be the end of your career. What's the latest you can give us?
Well, it's really up in the air at this point. We're doing all we can right now to get it to heal in the next couple weeks to a month, and if by then it isn't in the situation that I can play, we're going to have to go in and do some things surgically that isn't a walk in the park type surgery. So it's going to be some serious stuff going on in there, and it's not 100% that you come through able to play again after that type of surgery.
Well, Ben, the Colorado game put something into stark relief, obviously, and that's Christian Gomez versus Marcelo Gallardo. In your opinion, who would you rather have in the midfield for DC? Tough one.
You guys are something. I love Christian Gomez. I think he's as talented as this league has ever seen. But this is the business. Sometimes things don't work out, and he moves on to a good situation in Colorado, and I'm happy for him. We get a guy who is a little different than Christian. Christian's a guy who can turn and score and do a lot of the stuff himself. Gallardo needs a little bit more help around him as far as guys making better runs and doing stuff off the ball to make him better because he's such a great passer. I liken him to a little bit to kind of more like Marco in a lot of ways, the way he plays and makes everybody around him better. So I think they both give you a lot, and I'd take both on my team any day.
Ben, we've talked about you being a leader for this team. It's hard to do that when you're sidelined with the injury. What's the attitude, the chemistry, frustration in the locker room, or everybody's still looking to get some stuff done?
I think there's a good level of frustration. I think frustration's it's going to happen when you're in a situation like we are with the start of the season, how it's gone so far. But we have the guys now to take that frustration and turn it into some type of positive and take the frustration out on other teams. We've been chomping at the bit with each other a lot and laying things out, having a lot of heart-to-hearts, and I think it's going to work. The good thing is Tommy's doing a good job. He's in the past when we've hit situations like this, he's great at identifying problems and getting everybody focused and fixing these problems. So I think the team trusts him right now, and we have a nice chance Thursday, a quick turnaround, which is always nice after a loss like that to try and come back and redeem yourself.
Well, Ben, let's hope that the team can turn it around. And also, on a personal note, we wish you all the luck. We'd love to see you back on the field at some point soon. And thank you very much for joining us here on ET.
Thanks for having me on, guys. We'll see you soon.
Ben Olsen from DC United. They have a big game coming up. You can hear the whole interview on MLSnet.com. It's time once again to clean out the mailbox, and we'll start with a question from Nathan in Normal, Illinois, who asks, why aren't you guys talking about Chicago more? Well, good question, Nathan. Now you can grab a kielbasa and hit rewind on your video player. Next question. Rob from Ohio wonders if we have overlooked Will Hesmer's performance in the Columbus goal. I'm going to leave this one to our resident Will Hesmer expert, Shep Messing.
Well, Rob, to the contrary, I have spoken about Will Hesmer. When I evaluate a goalkeeper, I first look at his physical ability, his agility, his hands, his size, his strength. I think Will Hesmer has all the capabilities to be a very, very good goalkeeper.
Does he have enough to take them to the playoffs?
Well, we're going to find out. The key components now, does he have the mind to read the game and rebound from mistakes?
Well, another question that's come in, why have we been so hard on Landon Donovan? That's come from several viewers, actually. And, well, I'd like to point out that it was my partner here who has a bone to pick with LD.
I'll tell you, this is a complex issue for me, Landon Donovan. I love a lot of things about him. I love that he didn't care when everybody said go to Europe. He said, no, I want to play in Major League Soccer. I love his technical ability on the ball. I love his speed. I think he's got a genius soccer IQ. What I have not liked is the body language that tells me it's about Landon sometimes instead of about the team. If he matures and gets beyond that, he could be superb.
Well, the antics certainly sometimes cover up the great skills and talent that he has. Landon Donovan, such a tremendous player. If you have any questions or comments, anything you want to hear about from us, you can email us at extratime@mlsnet.com. We'll get to some more of your emails next week, so keep them coming. But for now, it's time for Shep's Wow Moment of the Week. And let me guess, Beckham is involved.
Beckham, David Beckham. I'll tell you what, this guy can strike a ball. And if you're Real Salt Lake and you see David Beckham with the ball at his feet, you got to step up and pressure it. He's not going to skin you on a dribble, but wow, he can hit a rocket upper 90 far post. That's my wow moment.
Well, Bex does seem like a man on a mission right now. Can he do it again this weekend against the Red Bulls? I guess we'll see. That's all she wrote for this edition of Extra Time, but join us next week and we'll pick it around.